Welcome everyone. This is episode 31 of the Transmaxxing podcast, and today's topic is how to extract resources from men. One obvious advantage females have is the ability to easier extract resources from male seeking companionship or sex. So I'm going to turn this over to Valle and ask about your experience doing that.
It was a wild change for me getting into sex work at the start. Like, a lot of these guys are very much interested in you, and the biggest part is just finding the guys. Like, my first experience doing sex work it was a rebound from this one guy who just straight up ghosted me. And I had my makeup done and everything, and I was kind of feeling bad, and I didn't want to waste the night. So I started texting a bunch of other guys about what happened and if they wanted to like pick me up and have some fun with me instead. And like I'm pretty sure it was like one of the first guys just texted me right back and picked me up, brought me to a hotel, and then we did it and I got $500 just straight up from that night. Like it was nothing. And it was a fantastic time, and I loved all of it. And I don't know, like for me at least, it's just way too pleasurable doing all this. And like I don't know if I could like ever really like compare it to any other kind of work, because most other work is kind of like soul draining, and this one actually like it invigorates me, and like it pays so much. And there's like so many ways you can go through this as well, like you can get guys to pay for you through just like texting them, or you can like do like the full on escorting. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, and do not forget that it is not easy to earn money these days via other means.
Yeah, for sure. Like I worked the day after my first time doing sex work. It was kind of like mind-boggling to me that like before then like I made $500 in that night and it was like only an hour. And now here I am working a minimum wage job and I'm spending 3 hours to get $50. It's not the same, and it's sex work kind of ruined that for me a little bit, just because like I know I can be making so much money doing something else. Like why waste my time with dumb bullshit?
There are of course risks with sex work. The main thing you have to worry about is getting some disease from it, so you have to be very careful there. And there are various ways to mitigate that risk. The most obvious one is to focus on work where you do not physically meet other people, like Onlyfans for example. Or something
Yeah.
more like the girlfriend experience. Or you try like sticking to one guy who consistently pays you. But that might be harder because one guy might be desperate enough to pay you once, like $500, but he might not have the money to just keep paying you that much. You will probably earn less if you stick to one male than if you vary and go with the different males.
Yeah, there is an importance to having fewer clients if possible that are just regulars to pay all your bills if possible. And yeah, the if you can minimize the amount of like sexual contact you have. And it's important to also know if you are like very much out there to like analyze their dick and like the stuff that you're going to be like in contact with, because like some of these you can tell, a lot of them you can't, unfortunately. So that kind of sucks. But in a lot of places you can get tested for free. That is something to worry about in America, is it's both illegal and you have to pay for this kind of stuff. So just be very careful about that. And like there's less protections if it's illegal for you as well, because you can't just go to the cops or anything, because they're going to arrest you. In other places, like in Canada, it's legal for me to sell it, but it's illegal for them to buy it. So there's like a little bit of risk. It may make the guys more flaky because they may think that they're doing something wrong. But a lot of this is just like, it just guarantees protection for you if you do get like sexually assaulted or anything.
The issue with the Canadian and Swedish model is that then it's way harder to find good clients because a lot of them are not willing to take the legal risk. And especially now when people like that are being witch hunted by the media and everything for buying sex. But this is a big problem, obviously.
Yeah. An important factor to know when it comes to pretty much all sorts of extraction of resources from men is you have to be like very pleasant. You could be a bitch to some, and I think that works better, especially if you're like trying to be like a dominatrix. But a lot of times, just being pleasant will like keep these guys interested in you, and because they'll have great times with you, and like it'll probably set you apart than other sex workers if they're just like a bitch wanting money all the time. That doesn't mean that you should like push yourself and like give away content and stuff for free. You should know your value and your time, but just always act nice and try to turn them down in a polite way rather than just being like, instead of calling them a broke bitch or something of the sort.
I think it's very important that you understand how male feels and you make them feel good about themselves and what they are doing. So if you make them feel like losers, most males are not going to want that. But if you instead make them feel a part of a team, that you work together for something great, maybe he will be willing to pay off some loans you have, maybe he will be willing to build you a new computer, maybe he will give you a new phone, because he helps you out, because you're a team together. And getting into that thinking is very important, because if he's stuck in that individualistic thinking where he just thinks about himself and his desires, it's going to be a lot harder to get money and resources from him.
Yeah, and that's why it's somewhat important to have like transparency about these things, especially with people that you're trying to be very close with. Is, if you open up to them and like they like love you a lot of times they will try to support you and exactly pay off your bills and stuff. But like don't try to like lie about it and stuff. Just like try to be very clear about like, the and like I said, this kind of mixes back with like the whole being pleasant. When you're being transparent, don't make it sound like you're trying to use him. Try to make it sound like, you're just trying to keep afloat in life, and you want to make sure that that's able to happen when you're with them and you can like devote your life to being their housewife kind of thing.
Yeah, you might have to explain that for me to commit to you, I need to have like an income, I need to have certain things in life. For example, you talked about earlier that you had an old computer that needed to be upgraded. Like in that situation, you should expect the male to help you with that, obviously.
Yeah. And on the other hand, if you wanted to like extract resources from men and you feel like you haven't been having the best luck with other things, you can always just hide the fact that you're trans and just claim to be a cis female and then go and get free dates with men and basically just either like, give them a blowjob or like tell them that you don't do sex on the first few dates and, get what you can out of the men from those dates.
It's probably not going to be too much in terms of money, unfortunately, because sure he pays for like a meal or whatever, but that's not really worth the cost because there's overpriced food at some restaurant.
Yeah. It's definitely not worth the time to invest. It's usually doing the deed or finding a sugar daddy, and like usually the people who are serious about the sex will give the money. Usually the ones that are like fucking around with like dates and like also like be serious about like the video content and stuff you give out. Like a lot of guys they want like a quick wank and then they want to be on their way. So if you can like, be serious about prices with that and be like, it's $20 if you want a video of me. You should do that. Like, you should give some selfies so then they know what you look like and stuff. And maybe one tasteful lewd. But after that, they should be paying. And, you should only give them enough to know what they're going to get themselves into.
a lot of females these days are using Onlyfans. Is this something you will recommend, or have you even tried it yet?
I haven't tried it just yet, but when it comes to that, a lot of it comes down to like gaming the internet systems. If you can make some sort of notoriety on social media, whether it's just from posting pretty pictures, posting memes, basically the more people that can see what you post will make you more likely get people for OnlyFans and whatnot. So it'd be important to know where to advertise for that, getting your social media bigger, and make sure you capitalize on meme magic if it ever happens. I know there's a lot of situations out there where someone just gets big out of nowhere, like that Catch Me Outside girl or whatever. And now she's making it big on OnlyFans. So, if there's ever an opportunity that comes your way that is like that, capitalize on it if you can.
What do you think about escorting, where you officially only charge money for hanging around him and the sex is like independent from that? This is a way around the anti-sex work laws.
I think it's a good idea. Like, it does get around the sex work laws, and yeah, you're just hanging out, and so there's a balance between it. Try to be somewhat strict on your prices. I think it's better to start off a bit higher than usual. So then, if people think it's a bit much, you can be like, oh, well, I'll give you a deal and it can be this much. But like, don't lower your standards too much. But you should try to, like, do some consideration to get the bag because, $100 to $200 for a blowjob or having sex is still pretty good if you're gonna get nothing otherwise. If you're more busy than that, then obviously you can prioritize people who pay you more or, just up your prices and be like, yeah, I'm busy. You could even just lie to guys and tell them you're busy if they just lowball you too much because, it's your life. Do whatever you want. But it is important to get the bag and, try to, like, get the money when you can instead of just, like, turning it down because it's $40 too low. And, instead of 240 you're only getting 200 and
I think the worry I can see here is that if males realize that they're willing to go lower, then everyone will pay the lower price if they can.
yeah, that is a little bit of a struggle, but that's how come I say it like kind of bounces back and forth, like if you're getting more demand and you have more people, someone's bound to go higher. I don't think you're gonna have like an influx of like a lot of clients and none of them are willing to do that. Oh yeah, and another important thing you should probably think about is see if you can get like a full on sugar daddy, someone where you can tell them, if you want me to be exclusive to you and only you, it costs this much a month. Because that is the ideal way of like preventing all the risks of having multiple clients and like getting all your needs met. And it's pretty much like having a boyfriend, but some people are a little different and like feel weird about that kind of relationship and stuff. But I don't think there's anything wrong with how you find relationships. Some people you may find like on an escorting site and they may be like your true love. You shouldn't be too judgy just because of where you find.
I think what many people might be looking for isn't just money. You might also want someone who can help you in other ways. Did you have any luck getting people who can help you with other stuff besides just resources directly?
Oh, yes. One of my guys helped me find a puppy slave. And this guy can drive me around and stuff. There's a few other things I let him do, like I get him to do chores around my house sometimes, and like I make fun of him while doing that. But yes, that is another thing to look for, especially if you're like doing the femdom. There's a lot of guys that will want to do anything for you, and yes, it is fun to have slaves.
Yeah, it's very valuable to have people to do work for you because there's so much time you spend doing stuff that realistically someone else could do it for you. So freeing up time is
Yeah,
really valuable.
yeah, that's a big thing I've been doing. Like the guys that I'm hanging out with and stuff, going out and about when I look all pretty, I get them to take pictures of me and stuff. So then I can use that for my social media. And then definitely if you have like a nerdy guy who you're like dominating, you can definitely get them to do your dirty social media work and like get all the posting done, get all like the interactions done, all that. Nowadays, you can kind of like rely on AI to help you with some of this stuff, perhaps. Some people might be able to catch on, so try to always like monitor the things you're doing with AI and such, so then you can like, intervene if like AI is hallucinating or doing its dumb thing that it always does. I've seen people make the AI just bark all the time and stuff like that. Just many silly things you can do.
What about exploiting divorce laws? Are you familiar with the laws in Canada, for example?
I'm not too familiar in the laws. It seems like nowadays that like a lot of guys are like wising up to that, so it'd probably be better to like try to push the notion that like you're a team and like, to even if things don't work out to like, try to end on good terms because, they still probably try to want to help you out if you're not doing your best, if you can like end things on good terms.
Yeah, for example, if you have student loan debt, for example, make him feel good about paying that off. Even if you split up, you have to take care of him and thank him and everything and make him feel good about it even afterwards. You do not want to have like bitter men hating on you because they feel scammed.
Yeah. I don't think it's really worth it to try to exploit divorce laws as it stands. Just so many people are trying to be like against that. It seems like you might be better off like, coming up with like your own sort of alimony agreement that he agrees to rather than like try to like have it be hidden in a marriage. Although I'm a very transparent person, I try to make sure like, no one gets screwed over at the end of the day. So maybe I think a little bit different than most people, but I think a lot of people respect that and like appreciate that in me where it's like, I try to make it clear the things that I want and like the things that I want to do for my partner.
Something a lot of corporation do is that they hid really nasty details in the small text in contracts, for example. So it makes me wonder if you could pull off something like that. That's like page 42 in the contract you signed with that man. It says that he has to pay you X amount of money, whatever. Like, I'm not sure if this will even hold up in court. It's just a thought that came to my mind.
Yeah. I think you'd have to look into like certain laws and stuff because I know exactly that. Like, my puppy slave can sign a contract that says I own him, but human rights will disagree with that heavily, and I won't win in court when it comes down to it. But yeah, like, I think transparency is important, and I think that's what like makes a lot of people more spiteful. As a lot of times it's like sudden emotions, and then like there's this sudden realization that like they want to take everything from you. And like it can push nasty thoughts into people's heads, and that's what come. I like to end things on good terms and try to make everything clear so then it's like no one feels like they're getting scammed at the end of the day. Although ideally you want to have a happily ever after with your husband if you can.
Have you ever tried working as a waitress, for example?
I have not done that just yet. I am like handing out resumes and I will probably be working in this because I do think it's like a good idea. I think this comes down to like the same things I've been saying before. You want to be very pleasant and like try to do your best to make sure that they're happy, and then yeah, you'll probably get better tips that way. And
Yeah,
yeah, try
it's
to make yourself look cute. I heard that if you wear red, if you have pigtails, that like guys are more likely to tip you better.
yeah, and of course, passing as a trans female will make this a lot easier, I think.
Yeah, that's quite important when it comes to a decent bit of this. I think there's like a decent bit of like escorting and stuff where the guys do like trans women that aren't exactly super passing, but I feel like those things are like more pervy and gross, and you kind of do want to get like more classy men if you can, and like people who actually see you as a woman.
Have you ever considered working in porn, for example?
Hmm. That all seems a little weird. Like I was thinking, maybe be like a pole dancer at a place. I'm not sure about like the whole porn industry in general. That seems like one of the parts where you're gonna be exploited for your profits big time and you're not gonna make nearly as much as these other ways.
Yeah, it's not a good because you often get a fixed amount of money for that porno video and then they own everything after that, so it's not really worth it for the most part.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the porn industry is like exploitative where they like manipulate females into like participating for a low pay and then the like porn companies are the ones making all the money like Pornhub for example. So you want to control it yourself and not depend on third parties unless you can get a really good deal.
Yeah, like empower yourself for sure because yeah, the porn industry is horrible for that. And it's exactly that. If they know they can pay you just the right amount to keep your bills paid and keep you wanting more money, then they can make millions off of you. And it's just so horrible to see these women go through that.
Yeah, if they pay you less, you have a harder time leaving it. So you'd
It's definitely
probably want to stay out of it, and another issue with like porn is because it's so widespread, it can be shared. It can like ruin future career prospects as well. Like especially
yeah,
in America, there are like teachers getting fired for that sometimes. There was even one teacher who got fired because there was some like AI porn made to imitate her, and those like Karen parents got like freaked out and she got fired anyway.
yeah. There's a site that's kind of I don't know how valuable it is or how much it actually does. Like apparently the statistics it says about this site is very good. It's called stopncii.org, which stands for Stop Non-Consensual Intimate Image Abuse. And basically, a lot of times, if you like, I'm pretty sure the site says it a little bit better, but basically, you can create a case about images that were shared, especially with the rampant use of AI creating fake images of you being naked. You can use this site to create cases to help them remove photos of you that are getting spread of you being naked. Again, I don't know how well it works and stuff, but I heard good things about it when other people were talking about it.
Yeah, it's a new age where you have to be more vigilant about the stuff. And another issue here is all this Christian morality that makes everything more difficult and worse for everyone.
Yeah, there's this Western perspective about being very sex negative, where it's just like, it's bad to do that. Don't. It's like a sacred act, and all the other religious nonsense they spew.
I think it's also important to realize that a lot of males aren't just interested in having sex like once a week or once a month. They want something more than that. They want to have some companionship, have a girlfriend that is nice to them, and spend time with them. So if you can provide
Yeah.
that, it might be way better and way more profitable and better for both parties than the traditional sex work model where you just have sex with him and then leave him and afterwards it feels like maybe even worse than before.
Yeah, it can be a little damaging for the men, especially if they have this idea that like you're very successful at being an escort, where it's like, oh God, I just slept with this girl who's gonna have sex with like a dozen other men before I see her again. That can like push the wrong image in their head and definitely make you lose clients. So definitely try to make sure you don't act like you're busy with other men and like make it feel like they're the only one, even if that's not the case.
Yeah, and that's another issue with being typical old school sex worker where you see a lot of men is that none of the males really feel that special about it. While if you have something more exclusive, I think males are willing to pay more for that.
if you're unsure about like all the stuff you're doing and you feel like you're being unsuccessful one way or another, it's always best to see what like others are doing. Like, it's kind of a big market, this sex work stuff. A lot of pretty girls out there want to make a lot of easy money doing this. So try to look out there and try to look for the successful ones and see if you can like point out like key characteristics and traits they're doing that like puts them apart from the rest.
I think
And
one
maybe
good female to imitate could be Belle Delphine. And she really imitated this like nerdy gamer girl who was cute. She really want to maybe go for something like that.
yeah. I think she also had like other people doing her like that's another thing that's kind of hard is you don't exactly know perhaps all the details. They may not tell you exactly even if you reach out to them, but like I'm pretty sure she had like these guys on her social media doing most of the work for her. So like, you know, don't ever feel bad if you need to like reach out and get help from other people or like use other men to help further your own success.
Didn't Belle Delphine have a boyfriend as well all the time?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh yeah, one final thing about all this, especially when it comes to like getting big on the internet, is a lot of times it's good to like give these guys ways to spoil you, like whether it's a good new computer, new phone, or even like the clothing you want to buy. I remember this one girl was on here and like she posted on her Facebook story that she wanted these things bought for her and it's like hundreds of dollars for these chains and like a $700 mini bag. And like not even a week later, she's like, "Oh yeah, someone already bought me the mini bag and the chain, but this other chain still hasn't been bought if anyone wants to get that for me." And it's just like, wow. It's really impressive just like the things you can get from men.
Okay, this marks the end of episode 31 of the Transmaxxing podcast. I hope that you have a nice day forward and that you will get amazing gifts and benefits from men in your life if you pursue that path. Have a nice day everyone.